Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Journey into Comics with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stone.
I am a god, you dull creature.
Hey everybody, Nate with Journey into Comics here. Today, I've got two awesome people with me. Brando is here. Hey Brando.
Hey man, how you doing?
And then back again for the second time, Mr. Shuddy Boy from Mad Scientist Party Hour. How's it going, buddy?
Not too bad. How about you guys?
Doing really good over here.
Yeah, it's fairly swell. You guys are like, we're like skipping stones or something. Illinois, well, kind of Illinois, and then like further down Indiana, and then Pennsylvania.
Well, see, you're just up there in the part of Indiana that wants to cling so hard to Chicago that they have to have the same time zone.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when Nate introduced himself to me, he's like, "Hey, I'm Nate from Chicago,"
yeah, well, because if I explain,
and then I only come to find out weeks later that he actually lives in Indiana.
yeah, well, to
So,
explain,
I mean, our friendship has been built on a lie, pretty much.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
we'll see.
unfortunate.
I have a coworker who's from the same area, and basically, whenever he refers to it, he calls it the region. So, Nate, up there, do you guys also call it the region?
Okay, I don't call it the quote unquote region, but yes, everyone else in this area. There's even a restaurant called the Region. That's how they're in. That's how much they're into the region. If we could
Man.
say the region another couple times, the region.
The region.
I'm glad that part of the state has some sort of like copyright on that term, the region, because no other place can apparently have that term.
I guess it's kind of stupid if you ask me, but it's just I don't know. Northwest Indiana, they think there's something special about it because they're not quite Chicago, but sorta. And it makes people who are from Illinois like me like, God damn it, how do I explain to people where I am without sounding completely ridiculous? You know, I kind of live in the northwestern Indiana. It sounds stupid. Chicago, it's much closer.
I think that's why Nick has just started saying I'm from the region.
There you go. I guess
And people go, what? He's like, well, it's sort of Chicago.
kind of, yeah.
In the general vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so today, guys, we're going to do something badass and fun. The first ever Journey into Comic Club. And we're going to talk about Secret Wars today. Written by Jim Shooter. Do believe he was probably writing this in 1983. It released in 84/85. Looking at all the different things in this book. There's a lot of stuff that goes on.
The quote that he has about this that I found when I was doing some research just really seemed really fucking cocky. He was talking about because this series was produced because Mattel wanted to release a toy line
Correct.
for Marvel.
Yeah.
So they released this book to drum up interest for that toy line. And Jim Shooter is going through saying things like, we went through a number of ideas. Mattel wanted Doctor Doom to look more modern instead of medieval. Wanted Iron Man's armor to be, cooler because that's what the kids in the focus group wanted. And then the very last line of this quote is, when time came to actually do it, I realized that only I could write it.
Yeah, he's really fucking cocky. Man, and it's funny, we'll get into this a little bit later, but some of the ways he writes could be considered very questionable.
It's really funny reading. I mean, because I haven't ever read Secret Wars before until this sitting.
Me
So-
too, actually.
As a 33-year-old, I went into something that I probably should have read years ago,
I thought that
knowing
by the time
what
I
I
was
read
done.
on the Wikipedia page about it, basically. And I don't get the sense that this fucking 12-issue story was geared towards children in any way, shape, or form.
No way. No. And in fact, I just looked up the toy line because I had a hunch. I actually had Doctor Doom from this toy line.
I had Dr. Octopus from this toy line.
And
Huh.
also, I found a picture. They actually have a toy line for more heroes that actually appeared in the actual book. They have like a Daredevil figure as well.
That's interesting. He was actually left out of the Secret Wars. And that's something that's mentioned at the end of this trade. They said, coincidentally enough, that Daredevil was left out of the Secret Wars, you know, and it was kind of a sore spot for the people that wanted him in there, you know.
Well, I actually kind of like, there could have been, a spot for Daredevil in this, but one of the first things I noticed when I was reading it, because I'd actually never have read the full thing either, I just knew the gist of it, is that in the beginning they kind of like overwhelm you with so many characters. And it's an ensemble cast, of course, but over the course of the story, I felt like sometimes it was difficult for the plot to really dive into like characterization. So it actually does rely on prior knowledge of the characters to go into it.
It really does, because one of the first things I was real confused by was with Hulk being an intelligent character.
Mm-hmm.
That happens very, very rarely, and to see it just with no explanation was kind of caught me off guard.
And there's also another thing with Iron Man as well.
Which is so funny because I remember I'm reading this and I'm catching a lot of odd stuff, and I want to pull up that panel. I can't remember exactly what it is or where it's at, but
It's in issue 2, if I believe.
Yep.
We're thinking about the same thing, because I wrote down a bunch of wacky lines from it, and it seems that almost all of them were issued by Iron Man.
And see, that was the first thing I noticed, was just he talks differently. I always know that Tony Stark is this intelligent, sophisticated, right here it is. So, bottom panel, right-hand side, you have Thor, the Human Torch, and Iron Man diving down towards Battleworld. And we'll explain what Battleworld is here shortly. So, do you guys think Cap's handling this right? Asks the Human Torch. And then, and I don't get it, but then I got it. Does Dr. J play Roundball Jr. from Tony Stark? But that's not Tony Stark. We find out it's actually Rhodey James Rhodes who plays War Machine.
But until I didn't even catch that until you pointed it out the other day.
I don't know.
I agree that I just thought Tony Stark was acting weird the entire fucking time, even when it was pointed out that he was acting fucking weird. It didn't occur to me until you mentioned it that it was actually when Rhodey took over.
Yeah,
because Iron Man, taking all of the stuff that Iron Man did prior to me knowing it was Rhodey, it was all so fucking weird for me.
I bet. And, really, for me, another thing I noticed about Rhodey was if you look at the people he interacts with, it's almost always just guys, and if it's a female, it's almost only Captain Marvel.
Yeah, perfect example. In issue number 4, Hulk says something to Iron Man about not dropping Captain Marvel. And Iron Man looks at the Hulk and says, "I never drop talent like this, my man."
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
It doesn't make sense, and then you're like, oh, that's not Tony. Okay, cool.
I was like, what the hell is going on here?
All right, so we've kind of got into this a little bit. Let's actually give them the start of this now. Who wants to take over the introduction of how Secret Wars comes about and what we kind of learn in the first issue?
Well, I guess I'll go for it.
Once, yeah.
Well, I guess, they're all transported, The beginning of the book is them being mysteriously transported to what seems to be like these docking stations.
Correct.
In the middle of nowhere, in the middle of vast space. And so the beginning of the book, and see, with me not ever reading this before, I was like, of course, they just kind of throw you into it. So I was like, not sure as if like the other, kind of all the different books and series sort of like lead up to it. I would have to assume there's at least, at the very end of an issue or something, they all converge.
Yeah, correct. Actually, they're excerpts, and that's in this trade that I have. There's an excerpt from Amazing Spider-Man number 251. They've got some stuff that leads into Spidey going there. Captain America 292. There's also some stuff apparently in issue 242 of the Avengers. Trying to see what else here do I see.
There should be crossovers with, other than what you named, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, The Things book, Fantastic Four.
X-Men 180 is also included.
Uncanny X-Men, Thor, and Marvel Team Up.
Absolutely.
But I have read none of those.
Me neither. I take that back because I have read most of the Amazing Spider-Man series, so... we'll talk more about that series later as well. So, to continue on, they all get transported away, and then eventually they all come to land on a planet.
Well, the planet is created.
Well, yeah, it is created from parts of other planets and worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So the battle world is created, and the heroes... It's interesting because when it starts, the heroes are all like, oh, hey, we're all together here, except for there's one guy that kind of seems out of place, and that's Magneto.
Yep.
And he is looked at, as kind of like, dog shit on your shoe. Everyone is just so against him. I mean, the X-Men kind of understand, hey, look, if he's here, there's a reason. We fought against and alongside of him before, and, he's not that bad of a guy, but all the Avengers and everyone else just looks down so deeply at Magneto.
Well, let's take a look for a second, and let's just find out who is all here on each side. So for on the heroes, we have Captain America, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Thor, and the Wasp. They're all from the Avengers.
She-Hulk, Hulk.
Oh, yep. And also we have some members of Fantastic Four, Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, The Thing, and then Spider-Man, and then from the X-Men we have a few as well, as joining Magneto as Colossus, Cyclops, Professor X, Rogue, Storm,
Wolverine.
Nightcrawler, Wolverine. Yeah, so I mean the X-Men, there's a lot of X-Men in this, really, in comparison. And then of course you have Spider-Man kind of thrown in there, but on the other side, on the villain side, you also have of course Doctor Doom, Doctor Octopus, the Lizard Molecule Man, Ultron, Absorbing Man,
Enchantress,
Kang,
Pile Driver.
I was going to say the Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew, and of course Galactus. So they've been separated. It's almost like whatever brought them here has seemingly separated them based on whatever their ideals are, like whatever their desires are, whatever they stand for. And so it's kind of interesting that whoever brought them there, of course, in the book, it's only just represented by like a sliver of light and then a speech bubble.
Correct.
So whatever this has gone through the notion of getting to know who these people are.
It's like he's been watching them for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a plan, and then we hear a voice say, I am from beyond. Slay your enemies, and all your desires shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. That's a pretty powerful line to say to a bunch of heroes and a bunch of villains. You might as well just say 3, 2, 1, fight.
Well, I mean, the villains are going to react.
Of course they
You-
are.
And it's interesting because a lot of the heroes are like, well, what are we doing here? We need to figure out what's going on. And the villains are also wondering that, but they're also like, they're overcome with their desire to take this opportunity to like take out their rivals.
And have everything they desire.
Exactly.
And we move a little bit forward, I guess. There's bickering and arguments happening amongst the villains, and of course, who leads the villains? I mean, who would you have lead the villains?
We'll see. It's interesting because out of the people who are on the villains' side, there are definitely a few that are like automatically X'd out. Ultron's not going to lead.
Yeah, and you can't have the Wrecking Crew or Absorbing Man lead.
Right. Galactus he doesn't give a crap.
Molecule Man doesn't really have that skill set.
Oh, and at this point in the story, they go out of their way to say that Molecule Man is really like not a villain.
He's a pussy.
Yeah, he basically, yes. He's almost like he's gone to rehab. You know?
He's been emasculated to the point that he just has no fight left in him.
Exactly. And at this point, it's because it's Doom. That's just it. It's Doom.
Correct. It's funny that even Doc Ock would maybe have made a possibly great leader, except for he's crazy.
I don't think that era Doc Ock could have.
Okay, I agree with you there. I'm not giving him... I shouldn't give him the credit that all the things he's done up to this point in time, because back then he wasn't that special.
Yeah, back then he was just kind of... he was easy for Spider-Man to whoop on.
Well, when you consider who else, is it Ock or is it Doom? It's Doom.
Yeah,
Even
those
Ock.
those are the two options. Kang can't lead.
No.
Kang is too self-interested.
Mm-hmm.
Even with how Doom is, Kang would be even worse. Kang is even more self-absorbed.
I agree. Now, what happens next is kind of awesome because Galactus speaks, and he is kind of angry. He wants to go after the Beyonder, so he takes off towards the rift in the sky, and as intelligent as he is, Dr. Doom kind of floats behind him, trying to see how close he can get to this Beyonder. And
It's very interesting. It's very interesting because there's one spot that I want to mention before you get to this, because when they all sort of realize what's going on and they're all trying to make up some sort of an idea or a plan, Ultron immediately turns on all of them. He doesn't care who they are or what they stand for. He's Ultron. They're all going to die. And like Galactus takes him out without any sort of like second thought, or
Like he's swatting a mosquito.
yeah. And of course all the villains are like, in shock of that and in awe. But then again, we get another example of power from the Beyonder, because I assume where you're getting at, Nate, is sort of just the same thing, but then you have the great Galactus getting swatted down.
yeah, he does. He goes into the rift and gets spit right back out. And, in this issue, one thing I will say about the Secret Wars as we journey through it, there is a lot of fluff in these books.
Yeah.
They say a lot of things that are kind of unnecessary.
It was kind of a tough read.
It really was.
It was not light. It was real wordy most of the time. It just seemed to take because I own it in single issue format. It just took forever to get through each issue.
There was a lot of exposition. And one thing that I did notice is that, harkening back to there being so many characters, there are some characters who, even though it is so kind of almost over-encumbering with how much dialogue there is, some characters get very little dialogue. And it's almost like they're extra characters just to be there.
They're just for background decoration.
Almost, yeah.
Basically.
Do you think Nightcrawler said very many important things in the entire Secret Wars? Because I don't think so.
He didn't even do very many important things in the entirety of Secret Wars.
That's very interesting. Me and Nate were talking on Saturday that up to the point where we had read yet, he hadn't vamped.
Yeah, he was telling me that. Like, it just he really didn't do anything. Who else? Captain Marvel didn't really do a whole hell of a lot.
No, she flew around and got like frozen in the light. But that was
that was
it.
about the extent of it. Hawkeye spent most of his time whining about being out of arrows.
Yeah. In all reality,
Guys,
Iron
I'd
Man.
really like to help, but Mr. Fantastic used up the last of my arrows.
Iron Man really doesn't do a whole lot.
Except act like a sleaze.
What's up with that? Why is he such a sleaze? Oh, wait. Rhodey. Fucking creep. It's true. It's so funny to read like his lines now when you're going through the book and you know that you're not reading it from Tony Stark's eyes, you're reading it from Rhodes' eyes. And at that time, and I want to bring this up, did it seem to you guys that maybe Jim Shooter was a little bit racist?
Not just a little bit racist, but a little bit sexist too.
Also
yes.
true.
I mean, this was, even for the 80s, I think this was a little on the, I mean, and it was meant for kids, a little on the sexist side and a little bit on the racist side.
There's something also that I noticed is that jumping forward just a little bit, there are a few other characters who join the villain side. Volcana and Titania.
Yeah, I have it written on my paper. Where the hell did they come from?
Well, I think we learned Denver, but at the time you have no reference to how the fuck they got there.
They just show up.
They're just like, hey,
they're just in stasis chambers and all of a sudden have powers.
Correct.
Yeah, but with Volcana, she's more of a curvy girl, apparently. And they body shame the hell out of her throughout this book.
They really do.
They talk about how she's plump, about how she's bigger. They never outright say that she's fat. And the funny thing is that she's not really drawn to be fat.
When Absorbing Man, I believe, made a joke about it, I'm like looking at the picture of her, and I'm like, what?
Is that when they're like sitting by like water or something? Or like some greenery, and Molecule Man and her are at a distance walking towards them? That was like book 3, maybe.
The Enchantress made a knock at it too, because there's a part where
she calls her a cow, doesn't she?
Something along those lines, man. I'm just as I was reading this, it was pretty unrelentless. It was almost like every time that someone else had to talk to her, they just took a dig at her.
Another thing I found strange, as we talk about things that are strange, why did they... Everybody gives people weird nickname shit in this book. Maggie? I was like, who the fuck is Maggie for like the first couple issues? And I'm like, oh shit, they mean Magneto. And then like they did it later. Alti?
Yeah.
Hulky? Owie?
The Hulky one was real bad.
I'm like, why? Why are you doing this to me, Jim Shooter? Why is that your game plan is to give them everybody? And they said everybody name drops entirely way too much. It'll be like Iron Man and Wolverine are one-on-one. And it'll be like, hey, Wolverine, what are you doing? Iron Man, nothing. What are you doing? I don't know, Wolverine. What are you up to? I'm not quite sure. How are you doing, Iron Man? And it's like half the dialogue is them just saying pronouns of who the fuck they're talking to.
There's also Doom has a lot of like extra dialogue. He reminds me of the writing for Doom. The writing for Doom reminds me a lot of like the old school like villain characters from like Dudley Do-Right, where he's like, yes, of course. He's just talking to himself, and it just seemed like it just kind of seemed like he was doing that so much. And it wouldn't just say like, oh, these are my plans. He's talking to himself. He's like going in and like just discussing his plans with himself. And I think they go into some sort of detail later on. Someone brings that up, and he says, well, I have my computer recording everything that I say. So he could go back later.
That was near the end where somebody said to him, "You talk so much. Are you are you recording this?" And he said, "All Doom's words must be saved for posterity," or something.
Yeah, something along those lines. Okay, so then where do we go from? Where do we leave off, actually?
Well, we hadn't even touched on the first battle yet.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the first battle, and the heroes are going to go to war with the villains. Anybody? Nobody?
They kind of get the snot taken out of them a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. We also haven't touched on the whipping of Magneto, how he is just, again, they berate him. They call him a murderer. I think
they
Wasp
do to him on the hero side equivalent of what they do to Volcana on the villain side. Like, they each have their whipping person.
Yeah. And it's weird because Magneto is so much kind of a leader, and he's kind of being bullied.
He really is by everybody.
I can sort of understand the hero sense, though, because they view Magneto as a villain. But from the Volcana sense, it's just like, oh, she's here, she's fat.
Pretty much.
She's chubby.
yeah, basically, yes. But they cast Magneto out, essentially.
They do, and one thing, Magneto said something that I wrote in my notes that really stuck with me. He says, I am Homo superior. I stand above you all, save perhaps Thor. He alone among you may be my equal. I like how he's giving Thor credit, like, I might be a mutant, but that dude's a god, and he's got his shit together.
I don't think it's so much of that as Magneto self-righteously comparing himself to a god.
Huh?
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Now I feel dumb, because that's really a better way to look at it, huh?
He's like, all of you are just normal. The only person that can possibly compete with me is a god. So therefore, obviously, I'm a god.
He could just be like really admiring Thor's hair, because that hair in this book, that lift, man.
He could know 20 years from now, Chris Hemsworth is going to portray Thor in a movie. And who doesn't love Chris Hemsworth?
He makes a great Thor.
I mean...
He does. But that's... So...
Uh-oh, we got the
Case
giggles.
in point.
Okay, so we move forward to, meanwhile, far away, Galactus is knocked out, and Doom actually gets up before Galactus does, and trots away from being spat out by the Beyonder.
I like how he marvels at how Galactus doesn't even like pick himself up like a normal person. He just lifts himself up.
He does
like
just lift himself up.
Like Galactus is just like flat on the ground. He just sort of raises up and sets himself back down. And then I like how Galactus is he literally views these smaller beings as nothing but little annoyances, like we do as like the common ant.
It's at the beginning, Doom sort of is in awe of Galactus. And then all of a sudden he just is like, you know what, I could take him on.
Yeah.
Galactus ain't shit. But like the first couple issues, he's kind of gushing over him. And then there's just like all of a sudden, bitch ain't shit kind of attitude towards it. And he just goes to war with I don't know.
Well,
I don't understand how this book was written for children.
Well, no, because Doom goes into mind mode and he starts planning immediately. After seeing the kind of power that Galactus has, after seeing the power of the Beyonder, he wants that power. He wants it for himself. So he starts planning immediately of how he can make this possible. And that it doesn't outright tell you that from the beginning, and then you see it with his actions later on, that you can go back and you can look and say, he started that from the get-go. Like, the moment that he was swatted down and he was put in his place, he wanted what the Beyonder had.
And he gets it.
Ultimately, he gets it. I mean,
spoiler alert. I didn't even think before I blurted that out.
It's okay. No worries on that. So, funny that we're talking about Doom, because towards the end of book 1, Doom, is trying to essentially say he must speak with Reed Richards. He would understand what I have witnessed and how epic this thing could be, and how world-changing this thing could be. And, of course, Captain America sticks his nose in it, and it ends up that Cap goes to blows, as well as the Human Torch and Wolverine against Dr. Doom. And while all this is starting, the rest of the villains show up, and that's how they end book 1. What a weird way to end it, You just start the big attack, I don't know.
Well, it's a Cliffy.
Yeah.
It makes you want to come back for the for the battle. But I find it interesting that Doom turned, first thing he thought of was going to Richards and talking to just him. But as you said, there's no way that Captain America was ever going to go along with anything that Doom had in mind.
Well, that's just how Cap is, and that he's, Cap is just a good guy in this, and this is how he was written back then. It's just he's the good guy. There is nothing in any Captain America this old where he is doing anything where you would go questionable. Maybe he's not a good guy. He is like the consummate good guy, through and through.
But yes, that's absolutely correct. I think it kind of sucked. That point, he was this is how it's got to be, no wavering, kind of very rigid.
Well, yeah. Now I have a question. Secret Wars is one thing, and they're actually bringing that back this year. And is it started yet?
No, it'll start. Believe it starts in May.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm like so far behind in comics, it's not even funny. But do you think they could have pulled Civil War off in the same era that Secret Wars happened?
No.
It wouldn't have had the same impact. Because really, this.
Well, you couldn't have Rhodey taking out Captain America.
Also true.
So, that's the first point about this. Tony Stark would have had to sober up real quick.
Real fast.
As I say that drunk.
Fair point. I wasn't
Maybe
even going to out you
judgy about
that.
Tony Stark. But I don't think so. I don't think the mindset wasn't there.
I agree with that. I think that had they tried it, very much like Secret Wars, yeah, all these heroes and villains are together, but is anything really on the line, or is this just Marvel writing?
Well, see, there's an interesting thing here, because there is a divide eventually among the heroes as well, between the heroes and the mutants.
Correct.
And that's when things take a real dark turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, before we fly on into book 2, Shuddy, what notes did you have pertaining to things that were weird or seemed out of place from book 1?
Well, honestly, not much. Because here's the thing. I lost my copy of issue number 1 somewhere.
Oh, no.
And we were supposed to do this a couple weeks ago. So I hadn't had a chance to get another one. But I read it a few months ago. So the basic plot points I remember from book 1. But I don't have any specific notes. And I was hoping I wasn't going to have to admit that. But it's even in my notes that I lost issue 1.
Well, hey, you had really bad luck with Secret Wars, apparently. You lost issue 1, you spilled coffee on issue 7.
Yeah, it has not wanted to go smoothly for me.
That is, I mean, like I told you, I'm just happy it didn't happen to issue 8 because,
Like I said, if it was issue 8, I would have slit my wrists.
well,
But that was before I read issue 8.
yeah, issue 8 kind of only really has one importance, you know.
It wasn't even. I was really, when we get there, I was pretty disappointed by it.
Yeah,
I mean, historically, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's.
all right, Brandon,
Like knowing what issue 8.
go ahead.
Do we want to just skip there since we can't stop talking about it?
Sure, I don't care. We have no forum today, guys. We're doing this
issue
however we
8
want.
is where Spider-Man's black costume shows up for the very first time.
Yeah, first
And
appearance.
I was of the symbiote, and I was expecting it to be something like, "Oh my God, this is Marvel Universe changing, hell yeah!" And it was just like I read it, and I was like, I kept looking at the back page and being like, "Really? That's it?
Hey, I got a black suit now.
That's it? That's really?" He gets a glob, and he's like, whatever I think, it becomes cool."
Come
Hey,
on,
look,
how did you guys think this was going to be a good issue? In the very front cover, it says, "Amid the chaos, there comes a costume." Who gives a fuck about the costume?
But it's the fucking symbiote costume. Knowing what that becomes.
Well, yeah, now, with your knowledge.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I wonder if I read it when it first came out, would I have been like, "Oh my God, that's awesome, Spider-Man, black costume. He can make it into shorts whenever he wants. The mask just disappears whenever he's hungry." Like, would I have looked at it and been like, "Okay, this is cool"? Or would I have been like, "This is kind of just, okay, whatever"?
Well, I mean, the symbiote didn't really become ultra impactful until Amazing Spider-Man, like, 298, when we start to see the rise of Eddie Brock becoming Venom. And that's when you kind of see that the symbiote could be so much more than what they had even drawn it. Yeah, they had kind of, paper trailed it throughout. I mean, he was Black Suit Spider-Man from issue 252 in The Amazing Spider-Man all the way to 300. That's a long 48-issue run.
That's 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it was bi-weekly, then it was 2 years. We'd have to see what it was released at that point.
I'm thinking that Spidey was
monthly.
Yeah, it was monthly for sure, because all my issues have 1 month on them. Yeah, that made no sense to anybody else but me and my OCD.
No, I understood what you meant. They're each different month issues, like June, July. They're not.
Yeah.
Beginning June, end June, like some issues have.
Correct.
But the symbiote is literally 2 panels. It's a black ball in 2 panels, a black glove in 1 panel, and then a full costume in 2 panels. And it just was like, I read it and I was like, the whole issue. I was like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen this issue. When's it gonna happen? And I just keep reading, and I'm like, ugh, where is it? And then I finally get to the end, and I was like, that was kind of weak.
Was that your be sure to drink your Ovaltine moment? From A Christmas Story?
Yeah.
All that for a crummy commercial? It was like all that for 1 panel and a half? What the hell?
What's funny is that they only give that suit a couple of panels throughout the entire throughout the entire series. Basically, just him like showing it off, saying, "Hey, check it out! I can like have short sleeves for the summertime." and then like later on at the very end, they sort of go into a little bit more detail as to why it stands out from the rest of the guys getting their like other outfits. But
it apparently also makes Spider-Man say the word Doomsday. My spider sense would be tingling if Doomsday meant to kill us. In issue 11, by the way.
There's a lot of interesting like things, like not just with particular characters, but like the way they spell holy. Like
Holy or HOLEE, right?
Yeah, like holy.
It's just, I mean, a lot of the dialogue is pretty campy.
That is the best way to put it. Yes. Secret Wars, ladies and gentlemen, when you're reading this, if you choose to read it after our weird hodgepodge thing we're coming up with here, it is very campy, but I still think it is kind of a necessary read.
I'm glad I finally read it. But
yes. I enjoyed my read of it.
I wouldn't say that it was something that was like reading The Watchmen or, something like that, where I read it and was just like, my mind was blown.
I remember the first time I read The Watchmen. Hell yeah. You're just like, oh my god, that was brilliant.
It was more like, why is this issue taking 45 fucking minutes to read? A comic book should be 15 to 20 at most, and I'm spending 45 fucking minutes reading nonsensical, irrelevant dialogue.
Do you think they babied readers back then a little too much, giving them too much knowledge, kind of guiding their hand a little bit? Giving them too many intricate details when they could have just jumped around?
The only thing that felt like it was geared towards a younger audience is how much explanation of what was going on there was in the books. Like, I think in the last few years, comics rely more on the art than the words.
I can agree with that, yeah. I mean...
and it seems like the thinking of Jim Shooter during this was the words are what's most important.
Now, I have to ask this, and as said, we're kind of jumping all around here, kind of like getting into this. Was there any story arc within this that you felt like the book wouldn't be less if it were without it?
Man, that's a great question.
I mean, the only story that really has any relevance to the entire 12 issues is Doom's quest for the Beyonder's power.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, there's no story.
Yes. There's one to me that really speaks out, and it's not... I don't want to say it's terrible, but it to me, it just seems like they give it a lot of panel time, and that was the sort of pseudo love story between Colossus and the healer, their white mage, the Jashi. I can't remember. I don't even know how to say her name.
Completely unnecessary.
I mean, I get it. They needed to have her care for somebody enough for her to come back in the end, right? But they had already started developing that a little bit, because it seems like they're developing her with the Human Torch, and then Colossus is like so in love with her, even though he's married. He's already married to somebody.
Poor Kitty Pryde.
I know. It's like this book is glorifying him going, I am totally in love with somebody else. And I'm going to go...
When he starts off the book going, I miss Kitty. I can't stop thinking about Kitty. I want Kitty. I just want to get back home to Kitty. He was such a crybaby.
Isn't he the most annoying character?
It goes from, I miss Kitty, I want to be with Kitty, I love Kitty, I need to see Kitty, to...
I found a new kitty.
I love Zashi, I miss Zashi, I need to see Zashi. Where's Zashi? Come back to me, Zashi. Like, really, Colossus? You're a big Russian bitch. Like, so... He barely even fights, and when he does, he gets the shit kicked out of him. He's fucking Colossus, for Christ's sake.
Here's some dialogue.
Like Jim Shooter's like, what character of the X-Men do I like the least? Obviously, it's Colossus, by the way he wrote him.
Well, at the time, they were still, involved with the Cold War in Russia. Do you think that affected his dislike for the Russian Colossus?
Why even go to include him?
There
were other X-Men at the time.
Correct, there were. You could have.
But Colossus was one of the main ones that. I mean, I don't know how Mattel could have read this and been like, you know what? That portrayal of Colossus, we are going to sell a ton of those fucking toys. That
everyone's going to want Colossus
to be our fucking moneymaker. There are so many things about this book that I go, what the hell was Marvel thinking?
Well, I don't think they were thinking. I think that's kind of the issue in
I
these
mean, the
issues.
problem is the editor-in-chief of Marvel at the time is the one who wrote this.
Hey, I
So-
found that fat-shaming panel finally. I've been looking for it since we started talking about it.
Have you? Because I looked for it and I gave up.
I'm trying to see. Let's see. Where does she say it? I'm right here at it. Oh, here comes the milksop and his cow. So, yeah, one of the Wrecking Ball, I do believe Piledriver calls her a cow and then moos at her.
Yes.
Moo.
Oh my goodness.
And I that panel really confused me because she's not drawn large.
Not at
No.
all.
She's drawn almost in a way that she could pass for Wonder Woman.
Correct.
I
Yep.
mean, more solid of a woman than like a Lois Lane or a Gwen Stacy character. But she's not drawn like the fucking Blob.
Exactly. She's a bit more of what you would consider plus size. She's built.
She's no bigger than She-Hulk.
Exactly.
And She-Hulk
yes.
is not drawn large in this book at all. When I read that, I was like, what the hell is going on?
Okay, we're talking about the females right now in the Secret Wars, so let's kind of continue on that theme real quick. One thing I really was annoyed with, and I kind of talked to Brando a little bit about this when we were attempting to do this recording a couple days ago, and we procrastinated a little bit too long. But I did not like how Wasp always talked about trying to like do her hair or wear makeup or like fluff her tits or whatever she was saying. Like, why was she so focused
Issue number
on that?
8 was Wasp always so vain and stereotypically female. That's my note.
See?
Because there is a scene where a panel where she's like, "I didn't do my makeup," and
Yes.
that really almost spoke to another era of comics. Like I have some I have a hardcover of some 70s Batman stories where Black Canary is just so like, oh my god, I can't go fight crime. I haven't had a chance to blow dry my hair.
Whoa. Like on that level, huh?
Yeah, I read that by the Wasp. I was like, oh my god, how misogynistic.
Okay. First off, I was going to say that we would have been ready had each issue had not taken so long to read.
Yeah.
When he messaged me that you were trying to get caught up, I was like, oh my goodness. It took me 3 hours to read issues 8, 9, 10, and 11. Like it was a chore.
Yeah. And I was reading it pretty fast, but still, there's so much to be said. But along the lines with the Wasp, I got very confused by her characterization because they mentioned that she's the leader of the Avengers, right?
Correct.
And color me surprised. I had never known that she was ever a leader, like the leader of the Avengers.
She was
But
one of the first.
one of the first ones, huh?
I mean, the original Avengers were, and Shuddy's going to have to fact check me because I'm going to screw this up, but it was Giant Man, Wasp, Thor, Iron Man, and Hulk?
Correct.
Oh, yes.
And they find Captain America in the ice.
And issue 4, Cap comes back. Because it's like one of the most iconic comic book covers of all time.
Now, something about also about Wasp is that she gets captured. She gets captured by the one that was cast out from the mutants, the one and only Magneto.
Yeah, and that's creepy how that whole thing between them two went down. The entirety of how they interacted with each other just didn't make sense. He makes a comb for her out of, like, particles of nothing.
He's almost sleazy. He's almost as bad with her as Rhodey is with Captain Marvel.
Yes. That is a good way to put it.
I will say something about this that I noticed, and that this is one of the things that kind of stood out to me. And Nate, I've actually said this to you already because I noticed it pretty soon after I told you about it right when I saw it. Can Professor X talk to Magneto through Magneto's helmet?
As far as I know, no, and he doesn't. They don't show him do. They show him talking telepathically to everyone except Magneto.
I want to say there was a panel where he says Magneto. He's talking to Magneto. I'm not, and unfortunately, I didn't write down the issue where I saw that at. But that rose a red flag up with me.
That would be. I mean, that makes sense because that could be an inconsistency that was overlooked. There's no way I'm going to be able to find.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you because it seems like when they're fighting, Magneto and Professor X are always nearby each other.
Yes.
I feel like didn't this happen towards the end of the book though?
I thought it did.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I know, man. Somebody heard my accusation, and they are not happy with it.
Yeah, I'm never.
I want to say
find this.
It was really awkward to me when I saw it because it really confused me.
Yeah, and you know, you had told that you said that to me, and I remember I was gonna look for it then, and I still didn't. So shame on me for not looking.
I haven't found it yet, but I think I know what he was talking about. He's saying that there it is. I found it.
Awesome.
I actually found it. It is the scene where Volcana hits Wolverine, and I want to say Cyclops hit her with barely got her with his like little beam, and then Professor X is thinking Wolverine lives. We reacted in time. Magneto aids Storm against Dr. Octopus at once, and then Magneto goes to do it, and Magneto's wearing his helmet.
Booyah! Brandon found one.
And this is in what issue is this? Went through them so fast just to find it. I didn't even look to see which one it was. This is issue number 7. And I thought that was really weird that kind of mistake would be made.
We need to write Jim Shooter and tell him what a fuck up he is.
Be like, Shooter, you racist bastard.
You racist, sexist.
30 fucking years later, I'm going to give you the what for.
Yes.
We all know Professor X cannot make it through Magneto's helmet, you son of a bitch.
Why else would he wear the damn helmet? Just to look cool?
Hey, I bet the helmet gets all the ladies.
Sure got Wasp.
Yeah, well, or so you thunk.
Or so I thunk it.
Correct. Now, I'm trying to find this panel, Brandon, that you were just talking about, and I can't find it. Oh, hey, I see it right here. Magneto aids Storm against Dr. Octopus at once. And then they are, in fact, flying together. Holy shit, that's crazy.
Basically, he's the reason for him for doing this is to say, you guys need to follow my orders in battle because I'm going to be thinking so fast that you just need to do it and not think twice about it because Professor X steps up because the X-Men separate themselves from the heroes and join Magneto to form like a mutant coalition. And Professor X pretty much steps forward and says he's now the leader, which bugs Storm because Storm at this point is the leader of the X-Men. So she feels like that she's being undermined.
I didn't like how that was written into this, by the way. Her undermine. Like, are you kidding me? Wouldn't you want, like, the mind of Professor X to... I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if the three of us were going into battle against some crazy-ass thing, and it was like, hey, who do you want to lead you? And
obviously, we would pick me.
Shuddy first, but
Yeah,
you're
that
not
just
looking-
But when I declined, then obviously Professor X.
Exactly. Exactly, Professor X. It just means if you decide to go as the first leader, you're just going to get Ned Starked, and that's no fun.
Well, see, what's interesting about this, again, is that first off, the heroes cast out Magneto. Then after a few issues, the mutants say, screw this, we're out of here, we're going to go join Magneto. And then collectively, the mutants come back to help the heroes anyway, which leads me to...
Throwing around the name Hitler constantly.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that, too. What's up with that? A lot of Hitler in this issue, or in this series.
I mean, they were using Hitler as a plot device for how humans treated mutants.
Well, yeah, that's true. That is very true. I think I used that as an argumentative point in the anti-registration debate, Brando.
I think you did. But my point is, it's like they go through all the big story arc of separating the groups just to have the mutants just come back anyway and be on the hero side in the end. It made that whole plot point pointless because they had the heroes didn't have to go ask for help. They didn't have to go and say, look, we're sorry for the way we were treating you. Will you please help us? The mutants are like, let's go help them to show that we're better. Which, I mean, a good person would do that, but it made that whole plot point just pointless. It made it like a waste of page, It like it was buff, it was filler.
Totally agree.
Creating drama for the sake of just creating drama.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. We're all over the place with this one, but I want
Yeah,
both of you. I want both of you to give me your star, like who shined the brightest in this book, and then who literally you could have removed this one character, and it could be anybody from the story, and it wouldn't have made a damn lick of difference.
All right, I'll let Shuddy go first.
Jesus Christ.
Way to fucking throw him under the bus. That was awesome.
Boom.
He probably just did the crotch chop at you, Shuddy, like over Skype.
You really, other than Doctor Doom and Captain America, who the fuck do you really need in this story?
The only other person that really needs to be in it is Reed Richards.
Yeah, and Galactus.
But that's it. I mean, did you think it was really also filler, the whole Ben Grimm can't have his powers thing?
They don't even really explain it. He's just all of a sudden, I can't control it. Oh, now I can control it.
Well, the whole purpose, I mean, I found this out in the anecdotes after the book. They gave him his own single-issue series, The Thing, and he lived on Battleworld for a little bit. And then he came back to Earth, but he didn't join back with the Fantastic Four. He stayed away from them.
Well, I read that he had been replaced in the Fantastic Four.
He was
By
She-Hulk.
Yeah, by She-Hulk.
And so then, yeah, he was away for a little bit from that. But hold on. So you said he lived on Planet Doom. Not Planet Doom. Battle Planet. I don't know why I said Planet Doom.
That's okay. It might as well have been. I mean, he fucking owned that place.
No shit. But, he lived on Patchwork Planet. And what did he do there? Was there a reason why he stayed?
I'll just read this little thing. It says, but let's start with the one who stayed behind. Ben Grimm chose to stay on Battleworld, having finally found a place where he could transform from human form to the Thing at will. There he fell in love with a warrior woman known as Taurinea. After 10 months of exploring this strange new world, Ben Grimm came home. As soon as the Thing left Battleworld, there was no longer any reason for the planet to exist, and it exploded.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then there's like 7 more paragraphs of shit I could read to you guys, but I don't think we want to sit here all day on that. Just mentioning that he finally returned to the Fantastic Four just in time for the group's 25th anniversary. And then it mentions about She-Hulk leaving the Fantastic Four to join the Heroes for Hire with Luke Cage temporarily. So, yeah. Also weird that Ben Grimm got the final panel by himself,
Yeah.
Like taking a dump on that mountain thing. Because it's kind of like what it looks like he's doing. I know he's thinking, but
Now, the hero or the character who I think is pretty much a star of this is Doom. I mean, the book focuses on him and his plots.
they could have made him so much more badass after this, though, and they didn't. You know?
Yeah. Now, okay, the one character, and just to be different, and I'm just going to think of another character who pretty much served almost no purpose that I can think of, unless you guys can correct me. Spider-Man.
Nope.
I take that back. You guys, there was one small reason to have Spider-Man, because his web shooters, they used the technology in the web shooters to do something that I can't remember, because it was a convoluted
To
plot
amp
point.
somebody's power.
It was
Iron Man.
power. That's right.
They amped Iron Man's power, but I mean, that was because what they used him, and they used some arrows.
Yep, Hawkeye's arrows.
arrows.
That's why he was out of arrows.
That's why he was whining the entire fucking time.
But I mean, other than that one spot, he got this symbiote suit, which of course, for this part, it served no real purpose. But of course, that led to a great storyline in his own, like in his own series. But for the purpose of this story, he is just there every once in a while to say, "We're in trouble, guys," which of course, anybody who has any sort of battle sense is going to be like, "Trouble's coming." He's just the one who gets it because he's got a spider sense. He gets that line. The Thing is sort of, I would have totally removed the Colossus storyline if it was up to me. But Nightcrawler didn't do much. He did a few things, but it took him a lot of issues to do so.
Honestly, I think you could have removed Cyclops as well.
Yeah. He was, honestly, the only thing that he was there to do was to be like, we need to listen to Professor X.
Exactly.
That's the only thing he did.
Another thing I found was weird. What's up with Enchantress, trying to get everybody in the whole world to bang her, and then she's secretly but no, seriously, if Thor wants me, I'm all his. What's up with that? It didn't serve purpose to me.
A lot of her babbling to me was very taxing to get through those issues where she had a lot of dialogue where she was just going on and on.
There's a lot of that with everybody.
Correct. One thing, as far as dialogue is concerned, I really loved the interaction between Claw and Lizard, because they both talk weird as fuck.
Yeah, one of my favorite panels is actually in issue 8. It's at the battle, and I believe that they are at are they at Doom Base? Yeah, I think the arc, because that's where Spider-Man gets his new outfit. But there's this big battle going on inside Doom Base, and everyone's fighting. There's chaos everywhere, and they come down this hallway, and they're like, "Hey, we got people down here," and then they just get there to see Ben Grimm. Who's on the panel? I'm trying to find it.
Oh, it's issue 9, I think, buddy.
Is it issue 9? Not.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're playing patty cake with each other.
Yes, they're playing patty cake, and it is issue 9, I think. No, it's not issue 9. Darn it!
Crap. We're not very good, folks. We try.
No, we're not. Should have taken better notes.
It's okay.
But yeah, they're it was totally random.
Oh gosh, I want to find it.
It seemed like it was the one only comedic thing in the entire issue, because I think Claw was there.
It was Claw, Lizard, Ben Grimm, and somebody. It's weird. Earlier, I saw that panel and I was like, oh, maybe we'll talk about that, and I didn't look at it very well. So that was stupid.
Yep, it is issue 8. It is issue 8. And it is Ben Grimm and Claw playing patty cake. Hawkeye and the Lizard are looking on.
Yeah, this is after that Hawkeye and Hulk said that they could take them on in a battle of the minds.
Oh man, it was great.
I'm still not there. I'm still looking. Oh, come on.
Yeah, like Mr. Fantastic finds them, and Hawkeye's like, "Hey guys, want to join in a rousing game of patty cake?"
Oh, I just found it right now. Yeah.
We've arrived at a meeting of the mind, so to speak. Stretcho, says Ben Grimm, sitting cross-legged right next to the Claw. They're playing patty cake, and what I like is the lizard says, "Disturb our games, and the lizard will destroy you."
Once we finish, you will do as I say.
That was a great panel. That I think out of this whole series, that is the one panel that really like made me laugh because it stands aside from the rest of the just over encumbered dialogue.
The next book we're going to tackle, which we can talk about that whenever you guys are ready, but the next book we're going to tackle in this journey of book reading, I think we're going to... Did we all decide that Hush is officially what we want to do?
I'm all down for Hush.
You're not going to get me to say no to a Batman story. I picked this one, so it's one of your guys' turn.
All right, well, I guess I'll take the vote. You know what, Brandon? Do you want to do Hush, or do you want to pick something different?
I will totally do Hush.
Okay, so Hush it is. You guys will be getting that from us whenever we decide. I think we're going to do this, what, every 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Something like that?
To 6 weeks, something like that I'm down for.
Cool. But continuing on in the Secret Wars, we're all over the place, I swear. What just happened? Was there a sneeze? I missed
No, just giggles.
Yeah, we giggled, and your lovely fiance is playing the piano. That's all I heard.
Oh, you can hear that. I can't hear that.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are getting to hear the piano playing. I can't hear it because I have headphones on, and it's not recording because the way my mic picks up audio.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we have a nice background.
It's like you're in the elevator or in the lobby of a place.
Next time you need to make sure she just plays superhero-themed songs while we do this.
That would be awesome.
We are chilling in a lobby somewhere, sipping on some champagne or something, just talking very, astutely.
Yeah, definitely classy drinks, not strawberry soda and pineapple vodka.
Dude, that still sounds amazing. I don't care what you say.
It's delicious.
Of course. I think Secret Wars is a must-read for anybody who is a fan of Marvel. I think it's something that can kind of teach you a lot about how comics used to be. There was a lot of weird subjective shit in this series.
And it was, I mean, there were lots of things that were very entrenched in the time. Like She-Hulk saying, "Oh wow, that was like tubular," you know?
Yes. Yeah, totally tubular. Yeah, I really like that line.
She is an attorney. She's not a dummy. Like, really, Jim?
What else do you have as far as weird stuff that didn't stand the test of time? I know that you took some pretty extensive notes.
Weird stuff that stands the extensive time, but this just goes back to how many times I've said, how the fuck was this written for children? Issue 12 starts off with blood oozing from the mangled remains of their flesh, sizzles across the smoldering debris of their once mighty fortress.
Damn.
That is a dark fucking panel for a 9-year-old kid to read.
Oh, and there's Zaji. Zaji's running to save him. Doom makes a badass Doom Castle when he becomes all-powerful, by the way. I just wanted to mention that. In scale, it's bad as fuck, because it goes into the atmosphere.
There was somewhere where the Thing made a Coneheads reference.
Really?
Yes, he does. I want to say it's when he is he's grappling onto, I want to say it's Galactus. He's grabbing onto his ankle. And he says, I really hope that, they don't know wrestling here on Remulac or something like that. Hopefully they don't know that, so he doesn't know the counter to this move.
Oh, now I gotta find that.
I know, man.
I've been spending this whole time just like looking through this book, like, what are we looking for? What are we looking for?
But that made me laugh because when I read it, I'm like, Remulac? Why does that sound familiar? So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, that's not that. Is that a planet in this universe? And I searched it, and I'm like, it's freaking Coneheads.
Nice catch. Brandon, you are the host with the most. You fucking find an ass person. You find all the things that are... You know what? Let's talk about this real quick, and I'll give you guys a couple seconds to answer this. I think I know what my answer is, but if you were to pick one cover from this series that stood out, like of the 12 covers of the comics, what's your favorite cover?
Well, before I answer that, I do want to point out that pink was used quite extensively in the covers for this series. Issues 7 and 12 are both really pink covers. And that struck me as a little odd.
7 is very pink. Yeah, it's
so
got
is the
giant-ass Captain America, but that is a pink-ass background.
And then number 12 is a giant-ass Doctor Doom with a pink-ass background.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see that one now. I know what one was my favorite of the covers, by the way. Oh, yeah, that's a super pink background. A little bit of red there, but it's mostly, super pink. I think... Go ahead.
I might be stealing your answer, but I'm going to go with issue 10.
God damn it, Brando. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, the one with Doom, and he's like really mucked up.
And he's all shedding, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like he's hurting.
Well, then I would say my next favorite, because I actually love the fact that I have this issue, is issue 8. I like the cover just because Spidey's on it, and it's his 1 second to shine, and that's about as far as it goes.
Also, issue 2 is a good cover.
Issue 2, let me take a peek.
With
Magneto
surrounded by the heroes.
There's another one I liked. It's issue 4.
Yet again,
it's where
okay, go ahead.
The Hulk is holding up the rock.
Oh, he's holding up the mountain.
The mountain. He's holding that up and keeping everybody safe inside. I like that. I like that cover a lot.
I like what it says on that cover. Beneath 150 billion tons stands the Hulk, and he's not happy. Of course he's not happy. Do you know how much weight that is? It's a fucking 150 billion tons. It's a lot.
I like how they're all just laying it doesn't necessarily look like they're all hurt. It looks like they're just like, we're just lounging in here in this into this chasm, In fact, Ben Grimm looks like he's naked.
If you guys can look at issue 3's cover, Wolverine is drawn really strange. Everyone else, I would say, anatomically speaking, looks normal. But there is something about Wolverine that looks a little fruity or off.
His neck looks ungodly long.
It looks like it's going to break off.
Like, as soon as he lifts his head up, it's like 2 feet long.
What the hell is going on with his neck? And then another thing I noticed, what's up with Iron Man again on the cover of issue 2, right next to Captain Marvel? Could have drawn him anywhere. You don't have the Fantastic Four grouped together. You don't have any other semblance of anything, but you got the 2 black characters right next to each other. There was some shenanigans going on when the Secret
you
Wars
don't
was
even
written.
have She-Hulk and Hulk next to each other, and they're fucking related.
Exactly.
Now, this may just be something... at this point, we're looking for racist things. But
maybe.
on
the cover of issue 5, Iron Man is in chains.
Hold on.
They have chains wrapped around his midsection, and there's one around his neck.
Yes, there is.
Which never happened anywhere in the book.
No. But I just thought that was interesting. I mean, they're doing sort of the same thing with Spider-Man with Dr. Octopus.
Can I ask, speaking of Doc Ock, how fucking long, allegedly, are his Doc Ock tentacles. He's got one and that's going almost all the way out to Cyclops, who seems pretty far away. Plus, he's wrapping up Spider-Man with another one. Plus, another one is going towards Nightcrawler in the back. Those are some long-ass limbs. I thought they were limited in length. Did they grow and I didn't know that?
I think they can pretty much do whatever they want, can't they? Isn't that the thing with them?
I mean, I thought that was maybe the case in, like, the Spider-Man comic, but I thought they always based in a little bit of science that they were limited to the... I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Whatevs.
I don't have any idea.
Me neither.
I always thought they could do whatever they wanted. I never thought that much about it, honestly. Like, I mean, my disbelief has been so suspended for comic books. Like, it wasn't like, okay, Dr. Octopus's arms have to stop growing at some point.
There are moments
a little ridiculous.
There are moments in this book, by the way, where I don't think the scale of how large Galactus is are accurately depicted.
I think overall in comics, Galactus's proportions are never the same.
It's very inconsistent.
Or proper. When you have a planet eater, he should be bigger than the goddamn planet.
Exactly. The fact that he's standing on a mountain on the planet, how can he eat a planet if he is not as big or bigger than
And
said
why
planet?
is he such a fucking threat if he's that small? I mean, how long will it take him to eat a normal-sized planet?
Several servings.
You've got years to prepare at that size. Like, oh my god, he's made it to fucking Jupiter. We have about 300 years before he's done with it. What are we going to do? We need to get this taken care of right now.
Holy shit. He's still just starting to eat this planet.
He's been at it for a century, and he's not even a third of the way done. Things are getting dire, people. Things are getting dire.
I can just see the evacuation plans for that. You know, they're like, hey, California, you got 6 months to move before he's going to get here. Do your fucking best. Okay. Another thing I noticed as we jump all around, I like jumping around because whatever. I love that there's only like one really huge dialogue from Iron Man, and it is just rambling.
Yes.
And actually, I just noticed there's a panel where it looks like he is smaller than Ben Grimm's foot.
Which one's that?
Okay, so it's book 9, and it's probably the 4th or 5th page, maybe the 6th. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 7th page, and it's the first panel of the 7th page. He is drawn little. He's actually also next to the new Spider-Woman's foot, and he looks tiny. Why the fuck is he so tiny?
Oh, that's a matter of perspective, I guess.
But look how big that wall is next to him. The wall doesn't change in perspective. And Spider-Man.
Oh man, there was actually a quote, and I want to say that this is when Wolverine and Captain America are arguing with each other. And I really like this quote from Wolverine, especially given the time of when this was released in 84, 85. And he says, well, I'm not sure if Captain America likens them to terrorists. He might, like the X-Men. And Wolverine says, terrorists are what the big army calls the little army.
That is an awesome line.
Captain America, I think, calls Magneto a terrorist.
Okay.
I remember that specifically. And that Wolverine says terror. Yeah. But I think it was more of the Avengers bashing on Magneto.
Okay.
When Wolverine was kind of like, yeah, he's kind of a shithead, but he's fighting at least to make sure that mutants are treated fairly, whereas you only come out to fight when humans need defending, not when us mutants need it. So while Magneto's not going about it the right way, his heart's in the right place. I mean, that's what I got out of the gist of that conversation between Wolverine and Captain America.
I really liked that line from Wolverine, though. I thought that was...
It is really... I mean, it's one of the better lines in the entire book.
It is. Now, moving on, storyline-wise, eventually Galactus tries to challenge the Beyonder. Again.
Correct.
And basically he's doing so by he's going to devour the planet. Of course, he's building this machine on top of this mountain, which he's going to actually devour the planet. And you take some strides forward, and try not to forget anything here, but Doom actually plans on one of the more irritating parts of the book for me is when Doom goes up to Galactus, his they call it his planet, but it's like a structure. His home.
His home world, they call it.
They call it his home world, but it doesn't look like a world. It's more like a big space station, really. And he is just so enamored with this place, and he talks to himself so much in this place. And eventually he gets cast out of there. And it's funny because for a while it seems like he is dejected, given up, but then it's like, I don't know where he goes, I have another plan. And of course that plan is to take the power of the Beyonder, which I thought that was a very interesting story arc.
See, I actually loved that. That was one of the things about this book that actually made me enjoy reading it was Doom's quest to gain the Beyonder's power, and then when he has it, how completely different he is.
Yes.
Just almost empty, just like, whatever, don't let me sleep. I don't want to accidentally, destroy a planet while I'm sleeping. Heaven forbid I do that. I need to stay awake.
As I'm re-looking through one of the issues, it's the one where Claw is getting sliced up by like a slice of bread.
Oh yeah,
he's got this big smile on his face.
He doesn't feel no pain.
It is so funny.
Claw's appearance seemed the most crowbarred in, other than the Lizard.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, Claw is here. He was in the side of the spaceship.
They could have picked anyone, too. They could have had any badass mother effer who wasn't in this book come out of that fucking thing, and they picked Claw.
Who is going to be making an appearance in, I believe, Age of Ultron.
Different Claw.
Nope, same Claw.
Really?
Different version of the character.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Awesome.
Yeah, Ulysses Claw is the same character. Because when I saw that Andy Serkis was playing him, I did some research to make sure.
Cool. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I was going to say, I need to know, though, what are some more notes that you guys have? Some more things that we haven't touched on yet?
Professor X's costume.
Oh, the yellow and black?
It looked very much like Racer X's costume.
Correct. Across the chest.
I have a few points about the ending.
Go on.
Well, okay, I mean, because we're jumping around here, but it's pretty much eventually, to set it up, once Doom obtains the power of the Beyonder, he pretty much he unlocks the hidden potential of Molecule Man, and he becomes a lot more confident after that point. And they don't have any. Doom decides that he's no longer needs them. He's going to do his own thing, and the rest of the villains are like, "Well, what do we do?" And Volcana's like, "Let's go to my house," which is the only part of Earth that got taken was this small suburb of Colorado
of Denver, Colorado, because it's such a hub of superhero activity.
They wanted to have
Apparently.
legal weed. Oh, that didn't happen yet.
Apparently, because also Spider-Woman came from the same neighborhood.
Yes, she
Who was
did.
also useless.
Yeah, she showed up and goes, "Hi, I'm Spider-Woman."
Hi,
Oh, cool.
I have a
What do you-
black suit and Spider-Man's going to look like me.
Yeah. But they convene into that neighborhood and they keep talking about what are we going to do? How are we going to get back home? And after a little bit of time wasting there, the Molecule Man decides that he puts a kind of a bubble around the whole suburb and takes it away, and they're going to go back home. And they say, well, we're never going to get there. You know, it's going to take forever to get there. And then Molecule Man, without saying everything he says, is pretty much like, you doubt my power? We'll get there. But that's never shown. The book ends, and it's like, what happened to all those people?
They're just floating forever in space. Yeah, that's right, because isn't he getting ready to do something, and Volcana gets taken by Enchantress?
Yes, because she made a deal with the Enchantress to teleport her when Molecule Man was injured, and then the Enchantress is trying to take her life force to try and get back, not to the planet, but to Asgard. She wants to go home.
She wants to go home so she can continue plotting to seduce Thor.
Yes, but she doesn't get it. She doesn't get to because they stop her. She ends up going back to Patchwork Planet, where she comes across the lizard attacks her for attacking Volcana, which then she takes all of the life force out of the lizard and pretty much transforms him back into Kurt Connors.
Which was a real confusing panel for me. Because it was just after the Hulk saying he felt weird. And then the next panel is a scrawny guy in torn purple pants talking to the Avengers. I was like, oh, he turned back to Bruce Banner, and they're like, oh, look, it's Dr. Kurt Connors. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yes. Oh, another thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, before all of that, the Enchantress locked herself in the bathroom to put some water into the bath to then talk to the water elemental. Arise, elemental, she says. And then pretty much here's where she pretty much gets all the answers that's been going on for this entire series.
Yeah, snaps everything together quickly.
Very, very quickly. And with the last issue, I understand they needed to get that done, but I've got to pick on the writing a little bit, because it's like, you would think that if they're going to do anything and to sort of wrap everything up and make sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on, which of course the rest of the heroes don't, because Enchantress doesn't even share this information.
Also correct.
So it's there are a few things story wise and plot wise that kind of leave me scratching my head a little bit, and but the one thing that I did like is that they did take time at the end, however small, such as Spider-Man finally sees that when everyone else is making new clothes for themselves, they're using the wrong, a different machine than he used. So something starts what are you guys doing? That's not the machine. This is the clothes machine. And he goes, well, what am I wearing then? But he's like, he even says, do your clothes respond to your thoughts? No, they're just clothes. He goes, then why do mine? Oh, well.
No care for himself and his health. He's just whatever.
Well, okay, so that sets up Spider-Man going on, down the road. And I just got to the panel that you were talking about, Shuddy, about how here's a skinny-looking guy in some purple pants.
Yeah,
which is funny because normally you would think that, yeah, okay, that's the Hulk, but in just the panel before, they actually show him with a crutch, and he's like, he's in some tidy whities. I didn't even catch that when I was reading it. Hulk and tidy whities.
Now I gotta find it. See what you guys do to me.
It's in the last issue. It's near the end. It's like page 38. But they also set up something towards the end where they're going back home, and the X-Men are going back, and one of the dragons that came in, or with Colossus, found a dragon buddy, flew into the area just as soon as Reed Richards hit the button, and it caused a big explosion. And they were like, "Oh no, what was that?" He goes, just a fluctuation, albeit a rather dramatic one. Hope it doesn't have a problem with them getting back to Earth. Anyway, let's go.
Do you want to know what happens?
Go for it, because I don't actually know.
Okay, so in the anecdotes after this book is over, it says, the X-Men returned to Earth in issue 181 of their own mag. The team accidentally ended up in Japan, where that cute little dragon that had teleported off Battleworld with them transformed into a monstrous behemoth, which threatened to do more damage to Tokyo than Godzilla on a bad day. Fortunately, the X-Men dealt with the situation with some help of their old pal Sunfire. And that's what they did.
All right. But I did like how they did leave it setting up for the series to keep going on with some interesting ideas, especially Spider-Man and the X-Men. But at the end of the book, it just seems like there's a lot of characters, especially Spider-Woman, who you're just left okay, now what's she going to do next? And they just nah. And it's cool. Same with almost all the villains, other than Enchantress. You know that she ends up getting back, or you assume that she does. But a lot of them, they're just kind of left going, well, it's over now, guys. Doom has stopped, and we can go home now.
The end.
I kind of felt like the end was wrapped up very rapidly.
Yeah, they rushed it for sure.
It drags until the end.
Yes.
It's 11 issues of build-up, 2 pages of climax, 20 pages of conclusion.
It was very imbalanced in that, in that way you look at that, because you are right. It's so much fluff and filler. They just put so much unnecessary dialogue continuously through these books. And, honestly, the sad thing is that the art isn't even that visually stunning, so it makes for an even more difficult read. Because you don't have something that's eye-catching on every panel. There were some really cool drawn panels, don't get me wrong, but
that was the style of comics back at that point.
Also true. But I know, man, I don't know, because I go back and I read, Amazing Spider-Man 101, the first appearance of Morbius, and it doesn't look bad to me. Visually, it's still very stunning to me. It's just whoever they had draw for this, which looks like Mike Zeck and Bob Layton were the pencilers, with John Beatty, Jack Abel, Mike Esposito, and friends were the inkers. So Mike Esposito and friends.
and friends. I'm so glad that...
They got no fucking credit.
That's awesome. Oh, man. I really liked the read, personally. As taxing as it was, I do kind of wish it wasn't so wordy. I feel like... I do feel like there were some cool, unique action sequences, but... Overall, I'd say it is a good read. If you're just coming into comics, I wouldn't read it first off.
No,
it's definitely going to be intimidating.
It is. I mean, even as a seasoned vet of comic reading, there were points where I was like, why did we fucking pick this book? It is so long. I just want to be done with this read already. But I still definitely enjoyed it,
I really feel like emotionally you don't really get attached to any one character in this.
No, it doesn't let you get invested in them, in any of them, really.
No, I mean, such is the way sometimes with these ensemble casts. You have so many characters to deal with, but they have to do so much with the few characters and so little with the rest that it really just doesn't let you get attached.
Okay, so hate to bring up more unintentional racism, but I found another panel that proves my theory.
Go for it, man.
Okay, so the chamber, there's a council chamber at Doom Base where Captain America has assembled everybody. I think this is an issue probably 11, maybe not. I'm trying to go backwards to find out what page fucking.
Is it after they've already talked to Doom?
It is 11. Okay. And they're all sitting around. Now I can't find the panel. Are you kidding me right now? No, it's further this way. Okay, yeah.
It's toward the end of the book, yeah.
So everyone's sitting around, and here's the order of people. Let's see if we notice anything interesting here. So it's Captain America, Wasp, Thor, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye. You thought I was going to say Iron Man, didn't you, you racist fucks? Then it's Iron Man, but right next to Iron Man is Storm. Again, black character. I don't think I see hardly anything where Iron Man is like just with, like, let's say She-Hulk or Wasp or any of them. Like, he is only exclusively with very few characters. I find that very strange.
You know what? And as I'm looking at some of the other pages on this, oh God, I'm just reminded of how bad this Colossus side story is. Like he runs away just to go be with her, and then they need him for a meeting, and Professor X is like, Colossus. He says, "Go away, Professor. I'm busy."
Just after he was done hooking up with her, or they were getting ready to hook up, and Colossus is like, "Dude, there's a sock on the door." Basically.
Yeah, I know. And then he gets back, and they're all talking about how dire the situation is. What are we going to do? We need to figure out what everything has sort of changed. And then they're all and the entire time, Colossus is just sitting at the end of the table, looking down, going, "Why am I here?" And then they try to bring him in on it, and he's so afraid to do anything because he doesn't want to die because suddenly he's found another woman he wants to be with.
All right, so I'm going to ask y'all a question here before we wrap this up. We'll call this like the quote-unquote final question. So we've got new Secret War coming. They're going to do another battle planet or battle world or battle realm or whatever you want to call it. If you could make any withstanding change to the Marvel Universe, whether it be a character death, the reincarnation of a character, or something small as a costume change, is there anything that you guys would utilize this Secret Wars that's getting ready to happen to evolve the Marvel Universe?
Make Thor a man again?
Agreed. Well, Thor isn't not a man. He's just not wielding the hammer Thor.
But isn't the Thor that's wielding the hammer a female?
Correct. So you want the actual Thor to have his hammer back and be the actual Thor?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that this Secret Wars, honestly, if it's up to me, because they're gonna, get rid of the Ultimate Universe and everything, I think that this gives them a strong opportunity to bring Miles Morales into the 616 Marvel Universe and keep him there. And then him and Peter Parker can both be Spider-Man, and they can do their own things,
I'm trying to think, and I'm having trouble actually thinking of one thing. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I liked the Spider-Man idea. I really liked Spider-Verse.
I also liked Spider-Verse. Maybe someday we can read that. That's only 6 issues or 5 issues. That's shorter. There are so many of these books I would like to cover. I don't know about you guys, but Infinity Gauntlet would be fun to read.
That's another one I've never read.
Oh my god, that's like one of my all-time favorites. We could do another pass on Civil War instead of a debate this time. We can actually talk about the book.
I'll be all for that.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many. I hope this becomes a regular thing.
I would like it to become a regular thing.
It was something I wanted to do on MSPH, but just Kevin, we don't have the time to always do it. And then when I met Nate and all we could talk about was comics, it seemed like the perfect
storm.
fit. Yeah, like, hey, you want to read comics and then just talk about nothing but those comics for an hour or so?
Oh yeah, man! I'd love to do Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, I mean, Nate, I picked Secret Wars. Nate picked Hush. So next one after that is yours. So you've got some weeks to figure it out.
Awesome.
The only thing I think about it is that it should be something that's relatively easy for people to get their hands on. So if they do like what we have to say, they're not going out and spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars trying to get copies of it. So something that's easy to get in trade paperback is my only thinking on it.
I'd be all down for that. Yeah.
Is it bad that I already know my next pick after we do Hush, just based on? Well, actually, I'm gonna guess that one of you guys is gonna pick it anyways. But we have to do The Watchmen, right?
We'd already talked about it, so it's.
I mean, like officially
given.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, we have to.
Fuck yeah.
That's another one I own in individual issues.
So, in closing here, do we have any final thoughts? Anything we would like to add to our episode of Hodgepodgeness? If
you have 3 weeks of reading time, pick up Secret Wars, because you try and do it in a weekend, you're gonna want to kill yourself. I mean, it almost needs to be read. Like, I almost feel like it would have been better reading it 1 issue a month as it happened.
I agree with that, actually. I think it would have been better because you're getting so much substance.
It was so taxing to read. Like, I'm glad we pushed it back, because it was very hard for me to read more than an issue and a half a night. It just very wordy, very time consuming. It's a good story. Almost Spider-Man 3-ish in the amount of characters it had in it, and not really necessary. But the idea was to have as many as possible to build a toy line around.
Yeah.
So they had to almost cram everybody in, but I would give it a solid 5.5 out of 10.
I would say probably, 5, 6, somewhere in that range. So yeah, we'd call it an even 5.5. I'd say.
Yeah. When I was thinking of it, I was thinking that I was going to give it a 5. So
okay, well,
it's a middle of the road. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not earth-shattering like I thought it would be. But if you're a comic fan, you should at least read it once in your lifetime, I think.
Yeah, I honestly, I think after all the time had gone by and I hadn't read it, and finally when I was reading it, I was really excited to read it. But I think like you, I was just a little underwhelmed.
I have all the issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths that I haven't read yet.
Oh my god, that's one I would love to do.
But I kind of want to read it in its entirety, including all 85 million crossover issues.
Oh my god.
But I'm afraid that's going to have the same outcome, that I'm going to be underwhelmed. But that's another one that we can do if you guys. I mean, there's the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Oh yeah.
And what's really nice about it is it doesn't necessarily have to be major comic book events. We could even go and do one tiny series from like The Walking Dead or from any comic book line and just cover it.
Yep.
In detail.
Oh yeah.
Tremendous detail. If you,
I would love to do All Out War at some point. From The Walking Dead.
That would be amazing. Speaking of The Walking Dead, real quick, folks, if you haven't read issue 139 or 140, do it. The last panel of issue 140 blew my fucking mind whole. I still don't even know how I feel about what Kirkman just did, but I'm so excited for where The Walking Dead is going, and I always say that because they never
two
fail.
issues behind, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
I know what I'm reading when I get it off of here.
Well, there you guys go.
140. So, hell yeah.
I'm going to pick up Mortal Kombat 10,
Oh, that's cool. Hell yeah.
Score.
and then staying up until the wee hours probably, and hating myself tomorrow.
Yeah, don't hate yourself. Hey, guys, so if the people who are listening to this the day it drops, it's my birthday today, even though it's not my birthday right today when we're recording, but happy birthday to me.
Yep, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, dude.
Thanks, guys. We'll get together more. I think we need to also plan to do a couple regular episodes where Shuddy joins us, because we are really good at rambling together. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds good. I'm always up for talking about comics.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Maybe we can all finish Daredevil soon, and we can talk about that.
We
Yeah.
can do that. That can be arranged, I'm sure.
Yeah. I haven't watched any more since I talked to you about it on the show last.
I'm such a fucking lush. I had to finish it.
I wanted to, but we've been really busy. So unfortunately didn't get to it.
I had to know. I just had to know how it ends, and it's so, the show was so epic. I'm no spoilers. I will say that Brandon, just to respond to you, and this is very non-spoilerific, the fight scene that you spoke to me about in episode 2,
Yeah.
was so fucking cool.
Yes.
To see how they shot that.
I was in love with that scene from start to finish. The more I watched it, the more I was just engulfed in it. And I read somewhere, don't quote me on this, but I want to say they did that in one, like, all of that shot was one take.
Hell yeah.
So it's like when they went to go do a take, they did the whole thing with the whole movement of the camera, since it was mainly just one camera.
Badass.
It's pretty cool.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one. My name's Nate. This is Journey into Comics. Today, Brando. Hey, Brando.
Hey, bud.
And Shuddy.
Yo.
They joined me. And thank you guys for coming on today and talking about Marvel Secret Wars. Next week, if you're listening to Journey into Comics, you're going to be able to hear the second half of Brandon and I's riff track on the 2002 critically acclaimed hit Spider-Man featuring Tobey Maguire. And if you haven't checked out the previous part to that, that's last week's episode. Go check that out. But until next time, guys, thanks for coming on again.
No problem, dude.
And thanks for having me, dude.
No problem. Anything else you guys want to add before we go?
Why don't we plug Shuddy Boy's other podcast here?
Oh, yeah.
More than I've already done, throwing it out there a few times covertly.
Well, let's find out where, let's kind of tell our listeners, in case they haven't listened to the show before, where exactly they could find, Mad Scientist Hour.
Mad Scientist Party Hour, we've got our own website, puminati.com. Nate writes for us on our WordPress blog. Find us on iTunes, riotcast.com, with a ton of other shows by the likes of Bobby Kelly, Jim Florentine, who else? There's so many. Nick DiPaolo. So we've got a pretty good lineup. Dr. Steve and all the crazy fucks at Weird Medicine. There's a sex show. So there's all kinds of stuff on our network that you guys should all listen to.
Hell
But definitely, mainly my Mad Scientist Party Hour. We focus mainly on sports, comics, and fart jokes.
And come on, you have Brandon. I don't know if Brandon has delved much into Mad Scientist, but one of my favorite things about listening to your guys' show is the epic battle between the great Pudini and Dan.
We do have two amazing listeners who call and weekly bring their A game on our voicemails with epic farts and talk shit about each other.
It's fucking awesome.
And so every time we do an episode, we have a new fart from each of them to showcase and vote on the winner. So if you're into farts, we are absolutely the show for you. If farts offend you, please don't listen. We don't need any 1-star reviews.
Just don't listen.
Yeah,
I love it.
if farts are not in your wheelhouse, you don't waste your hour.
I agree. But your guys' show's awesome, and we thank you guys again for coming on. Until next time, I'm Nate.
I'm Brando.
I'm Shuddy Boy.
And we'll see you guys later. Ciao.
Peace.